adwumanye oba ne ya edru bebi a maybe obema bi a che say ehye no awurade nyankopon esana ono ne chate no hu so we de hwe nkomma na che say de na adwan de
I'm the cousin legend, your host for Nigerian Rendezvous. I feel like make you join me every Wednesdays and Saturdays from 12 to 1:30 p.m. as I'm going to summon you every story when they come out directly from Nigeria, right here on Ghana Talks Radio. Indigenous people of Biafra, their leader, Uwebim Nandi Kano, they don't fail you. Don't forget, say if you follow us on our social media platforms at Ghana Talks Radio on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere, download our app, Ghana Talks Radio. If na Android they use, I be na iPhone. Download our app. Peace.
Ecstatic made it.
Yeah. Nobody feeling the way I'm feeling tonight. Yeah. And I have the hope that things will be alright. Yeah. So we're feeling irate as we hustle all day long. We are hoping, say that one day things go better. Smack up like Undertaker. When the things go harder, we go stronger than no matter. Yeah, oh, we go smack up Undertaker. Jale, oh, jale, here we go again. Jale, oh, jale, here we go again. Jale,
welcome. Good afternoon, welcome to another edition of the Cubicle right here on Ghana Talks Radio. My name is Lansah Lawrence.
Say I go get money to build out for mama.
And I'll be your host for the next 1 hour.
Here we go again.
On the Cubicle, we discuss issues of interest to society and to the development of people in general. And on Mondays, we usually have what we call the mentors. But today we are doing a little bit new stuff or different stuff, if I like to put it correctly.
Ecstatic made it.
And it just me discussing a little bit of the hardship that we are facing in Ghana.
I have the hope that things will be alright.
You know, last 2 weeks we had a discussion on how it affects young men.
As we hustle all day long, we are hoping.
But we're just about giving an insight about how we came to be here today. Mind, these are just personal opinions that I share and I hold as a citizen of our dear country, Ghana.
When the things go harder,
so if you're just tuning in, we are streaming live from Anya in Greater Accra region. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube at Ghana Talks Radio.
We go smack a man that takes Jale, oh, Jale, here we go again.
So like I said, my name is Lansah Lawrence. I'm discussing how do we get here as Ghanaians. Just trying to share my own insight into how, the way I understand the current economic situation and how it's affecting us and how we can get out of this ditch, hopefully very, very soon. So stay with us. Take a very, very short break. When I come back, I'll get right into discussion. This is the Cubicle on Ghana Talks Radio.
What up, GH? What's going on? We come your way with the latest filler, and yes, are you looking for the latest news about your favorite celebrity? Who married who and who cheated on who? Here we'll discuss everything with fun, joy, and comedy. Join myself on Himalayan DJ Coverage and Master of Comedy Alaji Zongo on Wednesday at exactly 8 p.m. live on Ghana Talks Radio. What up, GH? What's going on? We come your way with the latest
Now, maybe Cousin Legend be your host for Nigerian Rendezvous. I feel like make you join me every Wednesdays and Saturdays from 12 to 1:30 p.m. as I'm going to summon you every story when they come out directly from Nigeria, right here on Ghana Talks Radio. Indigenous people of Biafra, their leader. Now, maybe Cousin Legend be your host for Nigerian Rendezvous. I feel like make you join me every Wednesdays and Saturdays from 12 to 1:30 p.m. as I'm going to summon you every story when they come out directly from Nigeria, right here on Ghana Talks Radio. Indigenous people of Biafra, their leader, they don't fear you. Don't forget, say if you follow us on our social media platforms at Ghana Talks Radio on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere, download our app, Ghana Talks Radio. If not Android they use, I be na iPhone. Download our app. Peace.
So welcome right back to the Cubicle right here on Ghana Talks Radio. Like I said, we are discussing how did we get here as a country in the first place. How did we get here as a country in the first place? But you know, we can't do that without assessing what we are facing today. And it's basic, simple. In the local man's balance, or what the local man say, like we are all feeling the burn of the current economic situation. I just want to point out to three things for me. We are looking at the rate of the dollar and increment in prices, and especially fuel prices. Where is our fuel today, and how does this have a little bit of impact or big impact on our lives? The cost of living. And this is what I'll share. If you look at the news out there today, we have the cedi is selling at 14 Ghana cedi. 14 Ghana cedis. Just a week ago it was, how much is it? 10, 9, 12, from 9 to 12 to 15, then we're at 14. And this is not like play. Someone say play. This is not like play. This is actually real. Its effects are very, very real. I just want to read a very, very short brief from one of the news outlets that we have. They say cabinet, EMT, banks and forest bureaus to meet over depreciating cedi. This is by the Minister of Information, Mr. Kojo Upon Nkrumah. He says that government has announced plans it says will help end the continued depreciation of the cedi. Information Minister Kojo Upon Nkrumah says the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, will tomorrow, Tuesday, October 25th, 2022, meet all CEOs of commercial banks and forex bureaus to address this issue. The cedi is currently selling at 14 Ghana cedis to the dollar, a situation many say is affecting businesses. So the situation is that the dollar is at 14 Ghana cedi, and this is just like a number, a figure, right? But in reality, it's not just a figure. It's actually hitting Ghanaians so hard. And for me, I think the reason why I want to just talk about this stuff is because of, I'm looking at, we have different classes of people in our society, right? The elite, the middle class, and then the poor people. People living in abject poverty. And for most of us, we just feel like, oh, especially if you are MPP follower, or if you are so passionate about defending the government, you feel like politics is being at play. But when was the last time you bought fuel or food? I think food is even big for all common people. Let's just say food. If you're a business person, one thing that you always pay attention to is the cost of doing the business. And for people who do businesses, this is what they will say. How much am I putting the business to just produce my product in a way? And then how much will I sell? And how much do I make? So the question is that what's the cost of that business? For instance, you cook food to sell, and then you go to the market and you buy a gallon of fried oil or any other type of oil, first at 400, the following day it goes to 550, the following day it goes to 700, then the next day it goes to 1,000. Within 1 week, you've had your budget shattered. First of all, within 1 week, you can't produce to capacity because you don't have the money to buy. Within 1 week, your customers cannot buy because you've increased prices. Within 1 week, you become poorer. And that's the kind of situation that we find ourselves in. Mind you, this is just an example of one business, food, just trying to sell food. But let's see how it trickles down. Fuel prices. Anytime there's an increase in fuel prices, you know that everything is going to go up. And that's what we are facing currently. That is what we are facing currently in this country. Every day we wake up and there's this announcement or a notice of increment in transport fare. Just today, GPRT is actually engaging with the ministry to set a percentage of increment. Just today, GPRT is engaging with the ministry to set a percentage of increment. And this is because fuel prices have increased. Let's leave that number aside and let's look at how does it affect the poor person. In my village, right? The person who buys the fuel, let me use an example of a driver, like a transport owner, who is that public transport. He buys fuel for his business. Then he has to increase his prices so that he can buy the next fuel when the one he buys just finished. And that's what businesses do. So when you go and increase the price, not as if they also want to increase the price, but if you don't increase the price, you cannot go back and buy. And if you can't go back and buy, your business will fall. So he or she increases the price. Then you the consumer, here I'll put you the victim, right? You are forced to make an adjustment to your budget because maybe you are budgeted for 2 cedis from Oponglo to Medina. Now you go to 3 cedis. You are supposed to make adjustment. But mind you, this particular adjustment, you were not aware of it. So you become 1 cedi poorer. Now let's look at the change of production. How does this affect the change of production? The business person who transports goods from Accra to Tamale knows that when I'm going, I pay 1,000 cedi for transportation. So when I'm calculating my profit, I add that 1,000 cedi to my total selling price. So I get profit. I don't make a loss. I get profit from my transportation and the goods itself. Tomorrow, I go and transportation is 2,600 Ghana cedis. I'm supposed to cough out another additional money just to satisfy transportation. Obviously, I cannot in any way sustain that amount. So what do? I increase the price of the goods so that I can pay for the transportation and get some profit. That is just what's happening to us in this country. So I add the extra cost and then I increase the prices. Now, the goods get to Tamale and the poor woman who can buy just one for his or her daughter to go to school for breakfast or lunch is forced to what? To pay more. Just for that thing that he or she has bought just 1 cedi last week, he has to pay 50% for it because the transportation has come to dismantle everybody's budget. So you see why things get prices increase. It's not because anybody wants to chop anybody's more money, but because if you don't increase your prices, your businesses will fail. And if the prices are increased, who suffers it? We, the ordinary people, we, the consumers. The consumers are those who suffer it a lot. The classical example is the example of the fried oil. This is just a classical example. The one who imports the fried oil, this is where the dollar is coming. This is what we are all facing. He buys the gallon maybe at 9 Ghana cedi per dollar. He buys 1,000 gallons. He imports them. Next week he's going to buy, and they said, oh no, the dollar is now 14 Ghana cedis. So instead of the 9 Ghana cedis, you have to pay an additional 5 Ghana cedis to the previous money just to buy the same $1,000 gallons that you bought last week. He says, okay, fine, I can't afford 1,000, then let me buy 500. He buys 500 with the $14, then he counts. What does he do? Automatically, the price has to increase, because if it doesn't increase the money, the price, the next time he's going, he can't even buy 200. So you see how businesses are collapsing. That's the situation that we are in today in Ghana. Like I said, today we're looking at how did we get here, but we have to look at the situation that we find ourselves in and how it's affecting even the poorest person. So don't be surprised that when you go to the shop, I have this favorite biscuit that I always buy. Oh, one time I went to buy this biscuit. I bought this small biscuit too. The following day, I went to buy, the thing was like skyrocketed. I nearly got annoyed. I'm like, why? And I asked you, didn't you start listening to me this thing yesterday at this price? I said, yes, that's increase. So obviously, you get what? You'll be forced to go back. And that's just what's happening in our system. It's either you buy more, you get poorer, or refuse to buy. If you refuse to buy, you are going to deny yourself of the basic necessities of life. And that's how people are getting poorer in our situation, in our country. That is how businesses are collapsing in our country. And this is why we have this high cost of living. The dollar is high. Importers have to remove larger amounts of money to buy just simple stuff. And then we consumers have to pay more. But surprisingly, there's no cushion for people. So there's no extra what? There's no extra money. There's no increment in salaries. There's no any social intervention from the government to cushion people. So we have to bear it whilst we are smiling, because we can also criticize. When we criticize, then we are labeled as witches and wizards, just as we were labeled by the Ochihini. So we are in a very, very bad situation in Ghana, and this situation is just as a result of two things: increment in fuel prices, which is the result of the rate of the dollar. This is where I've just started. Like I said, we're going to look at how we got here, but this is the beginning. Stay tuned. We'll take a very, very short break. When we come back, I'll get to now how did we get to a point where Ghana, we don't even have money to chop, the whole country. And why are we all bearing that crunch? Why are we all suffering that particular problem? Stay tuned. This is the Cubicle on Ghana Talks With. I'll come up from the short break and we'll continue our discussions.
Ecstatic made it.
Yeah, nobody feeling that way I'm feeling tonight, yeah. And I have the hope that things will be alright, yeah. So we're feeling irate as we hustle all day long. We are hoping, say that one day things go better. Jale, oh, jale, here we go again. When the things go harder, stronger than Umaga. Brother, know the quiver, we go smack up like Undertaker. When the things go harder, we go stronger than Umaga. Yeah, oh, we go smack up Undertaker. Jale, oh, jale, here we go again. Say if I deliver me with the paper, I want to build house for my mouth. I dey believe in my hustle, but man they pray to Baba. Say I go get money to build house for my mouth. Jale, oh, jale, here we go again.
so welcome back to the Cubicle right here on Ghana Talks Radio. Like I said, today we are doing an introspect on how come we are here today. How come we are all burning? Everybody's complaining in Ghana. If you know, or if you have any reason out there you're watching, you can share your comments. Let us know what you think. But this is what I have to say. You know, how problem started for me started in 2020, and it's not COVID. It wasn't COVID. That was our problem. COVID was just part of our problem. COVID actually came in, and then COVID was a blessing in disguise in a way. Sorry, I know a lot of people lost their lives, but to the government, because a lot of money came in. But this is where we got a problem. I use the analogy of, if you know Game Boys, right? If you know Game Boys very well, this is what happens basically with the way they decide. Or let me just say the poor person who just stumbles across a lot of money in his life. This is what happens. So once upon a time, we were making less than 10 Ghana cedi a month. You didn't have money to eat, and then you couldn't afford the basic necessities. Then obviously, then one day you get $10,000 from 1 Ghana cedi or no money at all to $10,000. Like, you have just gone from a poor man to like a middle class person, because, or even a rich person, because you cannot afford monies that a lot of people cannot afford. So the government, for me, I would say that in 2020, what happened was that we were in an election year, going through COVID, and then a lot of money came into the system, right? So let me go back to the Game Boy. He gets this $10,000, and immediately he starts spending it. Then the following week, he gets another $10,000. The following week, he gets $50,000. The following week, he gets $100,000. What happens is that he's now thinking that, oh, the money will keep coming. The money will keep coming. The money will keep coming. So once the money will keep coming, I'm going to keep spending the way I want to spend it. This is what a typical Game Boy goes through. When the money comes first and comes again from 10,000 to 15,000 to 20,000 to 100,000, you feel like the money will always keep coming. So you keep spending bazaar. And that's what the government did in 2020. A lot of money came in, and they started spending the money bazaar. And from everywhere you turn, someone's giving you $10 million, $100 million, $700 million, $1 billion. People are giving you money. And you know what? If you get money, or if you get money, what you do mostly is to go and borrow. Because, for example, I know I'll get 10,000 Ghana cedi next week, right? But I want to buy something today, which is like 8,000 Ghana cedis. I don't have the money right now, but I can borrow, because I know that next week when I get the 10,000, I can easily pay. So that was what happened. The government thought that because money was coming in and money could come in for them at any point in time, we can easily borrow. So they were borrowing. Easily borrowing. You know, when you borrow, it asks you money. So you feel like you have money, but you have to pay. That's something that everybody forgot about. The government kept borrowing and kept spending the money, thinking that the money will keep coming. So, in Tamil, we have something we call Ayaluna. If you're from Tamil, you know what Ayaluna was. Ayaluna was a scheme where people were basically giving 100 cash, 3,000 Ghana cedi, 6,000 Ghana cedi, 12,000 Ghana cedi, just to go. It was described as a loan, but we all knew that the way it was distributed was just what? Take. And it was all for campaign. So in 2020, the government spent, especially during the campaign, the COVID was an excuse because money was coming in, and the only thing they had to do was to spend. And I will not say that the government spent everything uselessly, because there were instances where they gave free water, free electricity, and we all know that the distribution of nose masks, yes, the government has been touting them itself, so it's not for me to say that, but we all know that government had to spend a lot of money, or the government spent a lot of money ahead of the 2020 elections. So right now, you're at a point where you spent money, you've borrowed a lot of money, you think the money will keep coming, so you are on a what? Free flow of Didi. So we're all chopping, all Ghana, all of us, we're all chopping the money, we're all feeling like, oh, money is not in the system. And we all knew it was election year, and you know, the government was continuously warned, stop spending too much, expenditure is bloating, stop spending too much, but no, the government will not listen. This is where we come to the lack of accountability. So yeah, I think the money will keep coming. I'm borrowing, people are giving me money. So who do I need to account to? Because anything, if I have to account, the more money will come for me to spend. So if I want to keep up with me, I can't even account, because Charlie, even if I use this money, the next money I can easily use to cover that one. So there was no accountability. And up to today, we still don't have proper accountability for the way COVID monies were spent. It's a fact. Parliament could not probe it. So till today, we still don't know how public money or COVID monies were spent. So the government borrowed a lot, the government spent a lot, the government did not account to the people of Ghana. So that's the beginning of our troubles. Borrowing too much, spending too much, and not accounting at all. At all. And what happens when you start to borrow money? This is where it becomes interesting. When you borrow money, one serious fact about borrowing money is that the payback day will come. Whether you like it or not, the day for you to pay back, even when you take Momo loan, Charlie, Momo loan, even before you take Momo loan, there's a day they'll keep remind you, Charlie, on 12, you have to give us our money. You have to pay back. But it looks like the government forgot that they had to pay back some loans, so they were still spending. And that's what brought us the problem. Typically, the typical human nature, if I give you 1 Ghana cedi as a loan and you borrow 1 Ghana cedi from me, and you cannot pay back, there's no way I'm going to give you even 50 pesos the next time you come and ask me. So you see where our trouble started piling up. Our trouble started piling up not because we did not have any place to borrow, right? It's because when we borrow, we could not pay back. So when we thought that we were going to get money, keep getting money, the money stopped coming because the money that we were getting were basically loans. And we were spending thinking that the loans will keep coming. But at the point, the loan people say, no, Charlie, you've not been paying us back, so we can't give you money again. So first thing, accountability out of the window. Second, expenditure carelessly. And then the third thing was the excessive borrowing. So we were borrowing. But payday had to come back. Payday had to come, and we were able to pay back. That's the problem. And this is where things get more interesting for the government. Because initially you get up and then what you have to do is to what? To borrow more. But now you can't borrow. And you have to pay back. So the small money that you have to pay back small. Now the only thing that you need to do is to what? The only thing that you need to do is now raise revenue, which is aside from borrowing. So you see, the government had to now raise revenue to what? To be able to pay workers, to be able to pay some part of their debt, and to be able to fund developmental projects. Right? Forgetting that just few months back, a lot of money was in the system so much that they didn't care how the monies were spent. At that time, Nanado was like a star. Anywhere he was going, the cheers were so loud. It was so loud. And every day, Nanado was on our screens, greeting us welcoming him into our rooms during the COVID times. These days, when you see the president go, it's either someone's hooting at them or it's not too flashy. I'm not saying that hooting at the president is a good thing. I'm just saying, look at the difference between Nanado in 2020 and today. Back then, everybody in MPP was out there, in government was out there, in the camera. Anytime you go to the news, you see deputy majority leader, majority leader, everybody's on the screen talking. But now, where are they? But our vice president was always in the news. Where are they today? Because things are not good. You cannot be in the eyes of the people when things are not good. So yeah, back to raising revenue. Now we're at a point where we've spent all our monies. We can't pay back the monies that we've borrowed. We'll not get more loans, but we have to pay back. So we have to raise revenue. And how did the government decide to raise revenue? This is where Ghana was in a lot of fist fights again. The only option the government had to take at that time, or for them, because mind you, a lot of experts were saying, cut down the size of government, reduce government expenditure, because it's not sustainable. You cannot be looking for money whilst you keep spending more money. But the government did not listen. One thing that they said we could do was to bring e-levy. And this is where, for me, I kind of understood where the government was coming from. But Ghanaians, we cannot take that particular thing. E-levy was a source of revenue for the government, a very critical source of revenue for the government. If you listen to leaders of MPP, they always say that the minority were what? What's the name for that word? There's a word that fits this particular description. We're basically pulling them back. We're basically sabotaging the efforts to raise revenue. And they knew that the government had to raise revenue. But the ordinary Ghana did not understand how we moved from like everything free. Like I don't know, everybody was getting money, simple, basic loans, to a point where we had not to pay out of our own pockets e-levy. People did not get that understanding. But government was actually on his knees begging for us to pay e-levy. And that's the obvious thing, right? You have to raise revenue. How can I raise revenue? I don't know. Let me go and tax people's mobile money transactions. So you already see the reason why the government was bent on passing the e-levy. To the point where even Parliament, they were, like I said, there was the usual push me, I push you back. So e-levy was critical for the government. But what happened during e-levy? E-levy took a long time to pass. Initially, it was 1.75. It was proposed. It was agitated. We went to 1.5% of any transaction beyond 100. No, if it was fair, it wasn't every transaction. Then now it was now every transaction beyond 100. But we all know today they take e-levy even on 2-city transfer. That one there we all know, we all suffered. So the government needed e-levy to be passed because he had to raise revenue. But what happened to e-levy even after it was passed? The results was very, very underwhelming. So let's go back to the Game Boy again, once again. We were spending a lot of dollars, a lot of money. We were borrowing because we had money to pay back. People could give you monies. But then your spending was too much. You spent over all the money that you could even amass. So you got broke. You can't pay back your debt. And then the one saying he was giving you money say, I won't give you money again because you cannot pay back the loan. Now you have to do your own susu. Meanwhile, you don't have money to do susu, to raise money for anything you want to do again. That is where the government was at that point. The susu that you are doing is not even up. Today you are contributing 50%. The following day you are contributing 20%, 2%. It means that e-levy did not meet the expectation. And this is where a lot of Ghanaians had a problem